This is a warning story on why you should never use a Ouija board. First, you should know my mom's side of the family has Native American in them, and therefore are more tuned into the paranormal. When I was around 12, my cousins were playing with a Ouija board at my grandma's house on my dad's side. I didn't know what they were back then, but I did get a bad feeling, and I told them to stop. They didn't, and I got pushed down the stairs. I cried, and they burned the board, so they weren't able to get caught with it since it wasn't allowed in my grandma's house. She was Christian and didn't like them, nor believed in them. About a few years later, when I was 14, I was at my grandma's house on my mom's side, and my cousins again were playing with a Ouija board. I didn't know, and was walking down the concrete stairs, and was pushed down them. Luckily, one of my cousins, one that wasn't playing with the board, was coming up the stairs. He caught me, and told me to be careful, as I could break my neck. I was in hysterics, though, and said I had been pushed. He had a puzzled look as no one was behind me, and when we lifted my shirt and back, I had an inhuman-like handprint on my back. I had the same feeling as when I was 12, and I freaked out before I ran to the room where my cousins were, and saw the board. Oh, I grabbed it, ran upstairs, and threw it in the fireplace. My cousins came up yelling and freaking out as I did so. When my grandma asked what happened, they told her, and I got in trouble. After that night, I had something following me. I don't know what it is, but it got worse after a while. It normally appeared in the form of a little girl, with her eyes gouged out and her mouth sewn shut. She had long dark hair, and carried a doll that looked just like her. It seemed to talk, but no sound ever came out. It also appeared in the form of a man in the Plague Doctor mask, like the SCP creepypasta. If I didn't keep a protective item on me after about a week, I would have nightmares, and I'd get random bruises and scratch marks on me. I had no idea what was going on, and still don't, but it took me years to get rid of it. I tried not to talk about it, because when I did, I got dizzy and felt just off. It never appeared in pictures, but we did catch a recording of it only once saying no when we asked if another entity wanted to protect me from something. It has gotten weaker through the years, and I thought I would never get rid of it. But thankfully, I have now. Luckily, my current boyfriend's energy has seemed to have scared it off. I have been free from it for about a year now and have never felt better. So please, if you ever think about using a Ouija board, don't. They are very dangerous, and you never know what you're talking to or letting into your space. I wasn't even the one using it, and I was followed for almost 10 years by something very malevolent. And that goes to show how bad they can be. First off, my friend and I have been friends for a while, and we've always had sleepovers at her house and everything. I never had any bad feelings when I was there. Another thing I should add, we are both extreme believers in life after death and spirits. We believe in demons and angels, or good spirits. Anywho, one day when we were having a sleepover, I, all of a sudden, got an extremely bad feeling when we were in a room, which was supposed to be the attic. I didn't know what the feeling was, but I ignored it at first because I thought it was just my asthma acting up, which was still weird because I never had asthma attacks at her house before this. So I didn't tell her about it. Until later, we both saw this giant black shadow. We thought we imagined it until a few years later. Now, this happened last summer. So we were both asleep. Now, I always fall asleep on my side, And when I wake up, I'm still lying on my side. Also, when I'm at her house, I do wake up in the middle of the night sometimes. But this time was different. When I woke up, it was because it felt like someone had grabbed a hold of my ankle and yanked it as hard as they could. But strangely, I stayed right in place. I was only awake for about 5 minutes, unable to move or speak, and I saw that same black shadow. Then, after the shadow, or whatever it was, walked by my bed, I fell asleep again. When I woke up the next morning, I immediately went to tell my friend about it, thinking she tried to yank my ankle or something. But before I could, she told me that she was laying in the exact position I was, and felt the same yank on her ankle as well. Ever since then, we have had experiences every now and then, but nothing quite like that. My paranormal experiences started when I was 14 years old during summer in my middle school years. I have 2 windows in my bedroom. It was a hot summer night, and I was doing research online. I decided it was getting late and it was time to go to bed. But before I went to bed, I looked out one of my bedroom windows that was facing my backyard, and I saw a dark figure with a pair of red eyes. So I freaked out, and I told my mom about it. Of course, she didn't believe me, because of her strong church belief. And so I had no choice but to install 2 window curtains, and never look out there again. When I was 15 years old in the summer, when our house air conditioner broke down on the hottest night of my life, I was in bed but couldn't fall asleep. That is when my mom was plugging in her electric fan in her bedroom. At that same moment, I saw white orbs floating from my mom's room to my bedroom and then out the window. By morning, I told one of my friends about it. He told me what he saw too. He said that the very same white orbs came to his house when he was digging something out inside his toy box. He saw the white orbs and he freaked out and fell into the toy box, scared out of his mind. When I was 18 years old, I got mad at my older brother for giving my little sister a cell phone and not telling me about it. During this time, I had to share my bedroom with my little sister. We have separate beds and a Jack Russell Terrier named Bumble. I went to bed angry at my little sister and my older brother. When lying in bed on my left side facing the wall, trying to go to sleep, I felt something strange, like something was sitting near my foot. I decided to turn around to use my foot to move my dog off the bed. But it wasn't my dog. My dog was sleeping next to my sister. That is when I saw the shadow people for the first time. Now, the shadow people are entities that have no physical form, just solid blackness. It would step forward and then suddenly back, like playing a tape in the VCR from rewind to fast forward, over and over again. I decided to go to sleep and forget about it. Now, when I was 19 years old, every time I would focus my attention online playing Facebook games, I would always have this uneasy feeling of someone touching my head and hair. It felt like having a million spiderwebs all over my face. Then, when I was 23 through 27, I would keep hearing someone calling my name at the back of the house when I was home alone, but I never did go back there. At this point, I was sleeping in the same room as my mother, because I could not sleep in my own room anymore, due to all the paranormal things that were keeping me from having a good night's sleep. Later, I was 28 years old when this happened, while my grandfather was lying on his deathbed in Michigan. My dad traveled to Michigan to say goodbye to my grandfather. And at that very same day, I got sick with a high fever. I was at home, lying on the living room couch, but I had this sudden feeling I should sit up. So I told my mom I didn't feel good and I was sick. She told me to go to bed and lay down. But I was still having this strange feeling telling me, don't lay down. So I forced myself to sit up and stay that way, even though I was really sick. My mom was on the phone talking to my dad about me being really sick. And that's when we were told that my grandfather passed away. And I get this feeling that if I had laid down that day, I probably would not have made it either. I think I was supposed to die that day too. Months later, I would wake up and find that I can't move, apparently experiencing sleep paralysis. My bedroom door is open, and I see my dad at my door, looking at me, before he walks away and vanishes. Then, I'm finally able to move my body to get out of bed, and I run out to go see my dad. But it turns out he wasn't even at home. He was still at work at the time. Another day, my dad had an experience while being on the desktop computer in my room. He felt as if someone was touching his face and head too. I was in that room at the same time, but there was nothing there. He felt like what I had felt, being the spiderweb feeling in the face. Later, I was giving my dad a foot rub after a hard day's work as a mechanic, when I saw something sparkle, like a little sparkler, out of thin air in the corner, and then it disappeared. I would sometimes see it on and off on certain days. Later, one night, I was walking home after watching a movie in the movie theater. As usual, it was a dark night, and I was on the back road like I normally use to get home. I saw this bright, long blonde-haired man with a wife beater and blue jeans on. He was glowing with this bright white light all over his body. And as I moved past him, I looked back and he disappeared. Another night, I was spending the night at my neighbor's house, Mrs. Linda, because my friend Marlena was staying at her house. That night was the hottest night ever, because a storm knocked out the electric power. Also, my neighbor, Miss Linda, was having a sleepwalking episode, and Marlena had to guide her back to her bedroom from the living room. Anyway, me and Marlena spent the night sleeping in the living room on the couch. I then suddenly woke up to hear stomping noises in the hallway towards Miss Linda's room. I looked toward the dark hallway and saw a dark male shadow going back and forth in the hallway. That is when I thought to myself, I really don't have time for this, and went back to sleep. Now, at my current age of 29, my little sister went to visit her friend in Atlanta, Georgia. She came home really late one night. I was staying up late, and I heard this strange freaking noise that sounded like a woman was crying and screaming in pain. By morning, I told my sister about it, and she said she heard it too when she was at her friend's house in Atlanta, and whatever it was must have followed her home. We both thought it might be a banshee, and decided to leave it at that. Now, this last story happened recently. My new dog's name is Jelly. She's a Yorkie Maltese mix, and she's only 2 years old. I decided to show my dog to my neighbor, Mrs. Linda. After, it was getting late, and I decided to go and take my dog home. After I went to my bedroom and got ready for bed, I was sitting there, as usual, reading some manga on my iPad and some other stuff, when my dog Jelly was feeling really uncomfortable, like something was messing with her. I got scared, and I told whatever it was to go home, and my dog Jelly didn't like it. I later found out it was Miss Linda's house ghost, after I told her about this strange happening. Apparently it wanted to come home and visit me and my dog a little bit more. So, those are my experiences of paranormal happenings. And nothing's happened to me lately, but I'm sure there will be more to come in the near future.